Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Calvary Chapel Salmon podcast. Today, Hagen and I are joined with special guest Tim Hayden. Tim, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing very well this morning. Thank you.
Awesome. Good.
Yes.
Tim, who are you?
Well, I'm a believer and a follower of Jesus that I get to serve at Calvary Chapel Heritage Center. I'm married, have 4 kids from 29 to 16. And I'm just living the dream here in Salmon, Idaho.
From 29 to 16.
Yeah, I know I don't look that old, but
No.
Yes, sir.
Golly. So you guys are ready, almost going to be, what's the term?
Empty nesters.
Empty nesters.
Yeah.
How does that feel?
It was interesting. We had a really good season of that. Our 2 youngest boys had moved out, and our daughter Lauren was the only one at home. And then just through the trials of real life and being on your own, our youngest son has moved back home, and he's got some things that he's like you say, just working through. So we're kind of not as empty nesters. I get to do a lot more of the parenting stuff. He had a knee surgery and stuff, so it's really brought us back to fellowshipping together. But it's kind of brought the home life back together. But we are kind of looking forward to that season of where it's just her and I again.
Nice.
Sometimes kids are like boomerangs. You send them out and they come right back.
But hey, there's
It's good to be there when they need it. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, there's truth in that.
Let's see. Have you been working for us for like 4 years?
Yes, it started in like October of 2020.
Okay. Yeah.
Somewhere like November, October. Yeah, I think it was about October of 2020 when I transitioned from the tractor shop to serving at the Heritage Center.
So you were like a diesel mechanic guy or what?
Yeah, it was interesting. Where I went to college for land surveying. That's where I kind of met my wife. And we lived in Boise and all that stuff was going on. And when she said, hey, we're moving to Salmon, there really wasn't, it was 2007, 8 where the economy was changing and stuff. And when we got to Salmon, I was at home. We had found out we were pregnant with our daughter. And so we actually lived with my in-laws, and was like, what are we going to do? And there was a guy at church that said, hey, come turn wrenches. And I was like, had some questions about it, but he had told me that, hey, it's already broke. Can't get any worse. So
yeah.
So I was blessed to, he kind of took me under his wing, and there was a couple other people there. I actually grew up in the same neighborhood as one of the guys that I worked with there, and I can still consider him a good friend.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was a diesel mechanic for 9 years.
Nice.
Almost 10-ish, give or take. And then that season, it was just coming to an end or whatever. My wife was praying for probably about 1.5 years for just a different change. And there was just things happening at Calvary where, the new building was going on. And there was just people that, wanted to step up and serve our little kiddos. And like you started with the preschool stuff. And so I just remember you and I having a conversation, and you're like, hey, I'm leaving, but when I come back, let's talk. And so just prayed about it, and it was kind of like a no-brainer to step into whatever God had at the Heritage Center.
Yeah, it was right this time of year because I think I went to that pastor's conference in October.
That's correct.
Yeah, I remember talking about it with Lee when we went to that. And it was just made very clear that as the school was going from just pre-K to now like actual school up to like probably 6th grade or 4th grade or whatever it was then. It was just like I cannot be as involved as I want to be or need to be. Like I can't do both jobs. And I'm just like, okay. So I'm just like praying through things. And during that time I was doing my live at 555s. And I noticed that like I'd always see like you on there, like that you're on there watching. So like as I'm praying through these things, like I'm seeing your name in the morning just kind of pop up. And then I know that you've been faithfully serving in Sunday school for a long time around here. So just seeing your heart for kids in that way, it was like, I wonder if this would be a good fit for Tim. So that's kind of how that whole story unfolded. Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, it was, a real answer to prayer because, when I was a young kid, I'd lived and breathed football. I thought, I want to be a pro athlete and like say, be a role model for kiddos and stuff like that. And obviously, that's a daydream and injuries. And I wasn't that athletic. So, I mean, I consider myself pretty athletic, but obviously not to the caliber of playing sports. But
sure.
To now be able to, live my life and pour into God and kids at the same time is like, wow, I like living the dream right now where I want to steal Jordan's sentence of I feel like I have the best job in this county. So
Right on.
I definitely feel it was a good fit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, one of my goals is to have people who work for me feel like they have the best jobs ever. So far, I have 2 in the room, so that's good.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah. I feel like because the Heritage Center is definitely a part of Calvary Chapel Salmon, a really, really big part of Calvary Chapel Salmon. But I feel like it's maybe the most unnoticed part. Like if you're a typical Sunday morning goer,
Right.
you might not have even realized that we have a
Correct.
K through 6 school, and you're the school pastor / principal, and you do an awesome job of doing that. But maybe could you like tell us like what's the vision of the Heritage Center? Like what does it look like? It's just for people who maybe don't know what we're doing over here.
Yeah, so we have the opportunity to first and foremost, we greet kids and their families, and we get to minister, and we pray with them, we worship with them, and then we attack education, and we take it seriously. We're blessed with a couple certified teachers that are on board, and then we just have other teachers that love God and love kids, and so we just greet them at the door. We can usually tell by the energy and the look on their face whether they've had a good night or not, and how to pour into them and to receive them and whatnot. But I mean, we just have a real family atmosphere here from kindergarten through 8th grade. We've been blessed to, as families do not want to, from COVID stuff happening to just the world we're in now, families want their kiddos out of the public system and in a godly system. Hearing the word and being fed that way. And we have the opportunity, and we have people that serve at the Heritage Center that they love God again, and they want to serve in that capacity. So that's what we do. We have all kinds of activities, fun events and stuff. We live in a beautiful community to educate kids and teach them about God and show them in their reality of, hey, this is how God works and how you can apply it to your life. And build confidence and not get caught up or sucked into the worldly stuff.
Yeah. It is cool to see, because I get to be over here and help out the kids sometimes, and it's cool to see them not being surrounded by the stuff they would probably be surrounded by in the public school, even in the charter school. It's like, and they don't even realize it. They don't even realize what a blessing it is that they're here all day and they're not being surrounded by garbage all day. But for me, it's like cool to step back and be like, this is awesome.
Yeah.
So how many kids do we have this year at the Heritage Center K through 6? It's not preschool anymore, right?
Correct. We do not have preschool anymore. There's lots of prayer about that. The people that were here leading those ministries have sort of, God's opened different doors for them. And we've been able to transition through where our 6th graders went to 7th grade.
Yeah.
Those families were like, hey, what can we do? So we just plugged in. We prayed like crazy. God, how can we make this work? We finished the 7th grade year, and it was like the same families are like, hey, can we keep going? And we're like, God hasn't closed the door, so we're just going to keep putting the pedal to the metal. And we've grown that way. We're just under 40 kids, 37, I think, 36, 37, maybe
Nice.
35. But that blessing has been, it's been very consistent families that have, really made the choice for their children to be in what they call, I guess, a safe place. And I think the kids know they're safe here. We really do have, with our volunteers, our teachers, like you say, you help out a little bit. You help out a lot. You're a huge part of their daily walk or whatever. So
I just take them to play pickleball.
yeah,
That's all
well,
I do.
and I hear about that. Don't tell them about the sweets and stuff.
Hey, what?
You
Did
definitely
they
should.
snitch?
Well,
And guess
no,
what? Kids snitching on you.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
No,
all
they-
of them probably.
I play
With
the
the
same game.
Justice?
No, actually, no. it was-
Caleb.
No.
Which one?
Oh, Burley was right away to tell the story.
Oh,
Man. But I
golly.
do the same thing. I think it's fun. Like I say, it just gives you that camaraderie and relationship with them and stuff. And I'm just
Can't
teasing.
believe
But
it.
no, like I say, excuse me, it's a real blessing to be able to, like you say, pour into these kids. We have a village, it feels like, that they know if they need to talk to somebody about something or ask questions. I know you and I have sat down with multiple kiddos going through things, and it's the word. It's like God's word, like washing over them of, man, I know this is wrong. I'm kind of in turmoil over it, and what do I do? And we've been able to read the word and pray with them, and I think that's what, even adults don't catch on to that thing of, hey, stop, let it all out of your brain, get into the Word, pray about it, give it to God.
One of the unique things about our Christian school is that generally when people hear Christian school, they think of maybe more of like a prep academy, for lack of a better term, high class, high intellectual type of an atmosphere. And from day one, that's not been our approach, and not even our approach in that sense, but also like the majority of our kids that attend our school are definitely not our church kids, and they're not even churched kids. A lot of them are from families that do not go to church on a regular basis. Some of them are from families that really have no religious, spiritual context at all, and they just don't want their kids in a public school, and they find us. So it's definitely an outreach for sure. It's not just like a huddle of these elite Christian kids that get together.
No, that's correct.
It's that makes it messy sometimes.
Yeah.
Because you're dealing with these kids that come from lifestyles that quite honestly are, their home life is not modeled in the way that the Bible says it ought to be. And because of that, it creates a lot of turmoil on these kids' hearts. And we get to have them for 4 days a week for 8 hours a day and try to just assist them from any aspect that they're struggling with. So that's really unique.
Yeah, and I think there's beauty in that. You can see where the simplicity of God's word, because they absorb it, and you can watch them go out on the playground, or when they're here with us, you can see them act it out. And like Jordan said, they don't even know they're doing it or they're receiving these things, but they you can tangibly reach out and touch the Spirit moving through them. It's I did see it all the time, and it's just like, oh my gosh, I'm getting goosebumps now, because it's just super cool to see God work that way.
Yeah, I often say the school is the biggest headache, but it's also the biggest blessing. So yeah, every time, and I've tried to kill it. I've tried to stop it more than once, as far as like, I don't know, Lord, this is just a lot to try to navigate through. And there's all sorts of just liabilities involved in it on all sorts of levels that really can make me uncomfortable at times. And then especially because I'm the least involved that I've ever been, it's easy for me to sit over in my office over there and just think about all the negative things or the bad things and why we should be doing other things. But then when you just spend a little bit of time around what God is doing, it's like very obvious that he's doing something. So it's great that we get to be a part of it.
Definitely. So you grew up in Boise, right?
I did. I grew up in
the
Boise.
Wonderful small little town of Boise.
Yep. I was born in Pocatello, and I grew up elementary school, middle school, high school in Boise, Idaho. And
still a small town, right?
Yeah. It's so small. I'm grateful I don't ever have to go back.
One of the fastest growing small towns in the U.S. right now, I think. The Treasure Valley. Yes.
Yep. It's actually grown like crazy. They talked when I was in high school. Oh yeah, eventually you'll be able to go from Boise to Caldwell, and it'll all just be like Arizona, Phoenix, and all of those kind of things. And I hear report now through some folks that travel a lot that way that's pretty much the case. Is that it's just grown so well and so much that you don't know where you're at. So
Christian family growing up, stuff like that?
Not so much. I definitely had biblical people. My grandmother was she was a deacon in the Episcopalian church, so she was extremely rigid. So much she was scary.
Yeah. Okay.
And but she was extremely nice. I mean, she loved her grandkids and stuff. But her husband, my grandpa, he wasn't really into that. He was more into mechanicking, and he was pretty good alcoholic or whatever. So there was just drama with that kind of stuff. My mom, she was raised in a Catholic church. She went to Catholic school before her family moved to Idaho. So she did not like the rigidity. We didn't fellowship anywhere or anything like that. But as I was young, there were things that happened in life where we had really awesome people in our neighborhood that would take my brother and I to church on Sundays. The big thing that really stuck out to us was they'd take us Christmas caroling. Christmas was a hard time kind of growing up as a kid, year after year, just through things. And so they really poured into us that way. And I felt like I was touched by the Spirit because I prayed all the time. And I just found myself like, okay. And I'd, what is this or whatever? I obviously did not know. I was a young kid, but I just kept praying like crazy all the time for silly things and for, obviously for people, my family, my friends. But so I kind of grew into it that way, and it was a Sacred Heart church that we kind of had got to fellowship there, and then, but really it was pretty limited as a kid.
Okay. So then, at what point do you have a remembering of Jesus coming and touching your heart, and then like it becoming really real, or is it kind of like a process over time, or?
So I was a kid. I lived, like I said, I lived and breathed football. I focused on that, played that, and I was probably a junior in high school. And I had a really good friend. I needed a ride home one day, and he gave me a ride home. And he asked me, he's like, do you know who God is? Do you believe in God? And I was like, oh yeah, I believe in God.
Was he older than you or younger?
No, he was the same class year.
Okay.
And but he was a really stand-up guy. He walked his faith every day. His family was faithful. You could tell. He didn't engage in any of the school parties.
Is this Boise High School or?
This is Bora High School in Boise. And it was a pretty good school then. It was one of the bigger schools, like the Eagle and a lot of those schools weren't there then, or they were just getting established when I was leaving. But he was the only person probably in my entire high school time that brought up God or anything like that. But I still vividly remember sitting in his little Ford Escort car leaving the parking lot. It's like he was already talking to me before we left the parking lot, asking me questions and stuff. And because I think,
what's this guy's like? Do you know him? Have you seen him?
I haven't talked to him. His name was Steve Schneider.
Wow.
He was just an outstanding guy, excellent football player, tough as nails. I do believe he went into the military, and then I understood he was a police officer and stuff like that. So he just always was standing up to make a difference.
Yeah.
And whatever. So Steve, if you're out there, man,
Yeah.
shout out to you. I remember you you made a difference.
That's
You made an impact on me. So we had a conversation. He dropped me off, and I was just remember thinking, man, that was crazy. That was weird. And I remember thinking, it was just really bold of Steve to even engage me in that way, because I was probably one of the most trying to be rebellious, hey, look, whatever it was. I had a lot of struggles as I was going through high school and stuff, is trying to figure out, where I was supposed to be and what was going on, and stuff.
What
like
I
that.
like about that is like, so for those who don't know, so Tim is Taylor's stepdad. So like the one in my life who invited me to youth group is his stepson Taylor. What's neat about that is like he's still involved in my life and has been ever since. But then there's a story like yours where here's a guy who he has no idea what you're doing now, but that one conversation in his car meant a big deal to you.
Yeah.
And like sometimes it's a you reach out in faith to someone and you become friends forever and you get to be a part of each other's lives. But more than not, it's like this. Like you have no idea what impact you're making in just a little conversation about God.
Right.
So that's really neat.
Yeah, it was really cool. And like I said, I tried to keep up with him. I did the Facebook thing for a little while. I actually don't think he was on there, but I've since gotten rid of that kind of stuff or whatever. But so to get back to where my actual walk started with God, it was when I met my wife. We were at work. I was actually because I was struggling as a human being. I was living with a girl and her sister and brother-in-law, and
a girlfriend or
girlfriend.
Okay,
yeah,
just asking.
Yeah, no, it was a girlfriend or whatever. Like I say, just doing that thing, and it wasn't. Just my heart wasn't full. I had no sense of contentment in any way, shape, or form, and it was still obviously me. And I walked into this engineering firm, and this girl came walking around the corner, and she had just this amazing smile, and it was like, wow. And she saw me, and it was like, wow. And so we had this exchange. Well, I was blessed to be able to work with her that day, and then there was just an immediate, like, I had never had a comfort with a person of the opposite sex that way, because I was still, in man mode and trying to do, those things, and it just like really, really made me take a step back, and in engaging her in conversation. She was born and raised in the Word. At the time, she wasn't necessarily fellowshipping or walking as closely as she could with the Lord, but she was still going to church. Her mom actually, her parents had the house directly right next door, so her parents were still a huge part of her life, and especially with Taylor, because she was a single parent at that time. And she invited me to church with her and her mom, and I was like, yeah, sure. Like, I didn't want to not go at all. And so in that time I had realized, wow, this person is really interesting to me. Something's different. So I pretty much immediately packed everything into my truck. I moved back home and kind of tried to just be like, okay, what's this like? What's this look
So you
like?
just dumped this girl you're living with, huh?
Yeah, pretty much like I did.
See ya.
This
other girl with a nice smile at work.
Yeah, the dynamic was how it was, and it seemed like a
Good,
fitting
good,
thing
good.
to do. It was not. It probably was not a masculine or manly thing to do,
Hey.
or respectful. But
Sometimes
at the
you just
time,
gotta draw a line and
I
go.
pretty much had to. I now knowing the scriptures and things like that, I pretty much needed to turn the other
Sure.
direction and immediately go just back to home and try to regroup. But we got to go to Calvary Chapel, Boise. Pastor Bob Caldwell was the senior pastor there, and it was crazy because the church was growing and they were actually in a tennis bubble, like the big balloons, the bubble thing,
Oh,
the
okay,
huge
yeah,
ones
yeah.
that they play tennis in. That's what they had for their facility, and there had to have been 500 or 600 people in one service. They were
Do
similar
they
to
just
us.
pack in chairs and stuff?
Yeah, well, they had left it set up that way because that's how it was. But yeah, they had pretty much had folding chairs in there, and they had a big stage up front and a
Okay.
really awesome worship band. As obviously as they went, they had multiple worship teams. The church became quite large, but they had multiple services like we do here. And Pastor Bob was like a football guy, and he was just super down to earth, like. He was just told you how real it was of what kind of a person he was and how, simply God changed his life.
Yeah.
And he pressed into that. And I literally felt like I was the only one he was speaking to in those rooms where it was like the word was hammering me. And I, just was like, okay, here we go. This is different. So, really just pressed into that walk in Calvary. Kristen and I got plugged into some Bible study groups, so we had a weekly Bible study that we were in. Taylor actually went to Calvary Chapel, Boise school. That's where he got a huge love of chess, and so he actually got to do a little bit of chess stuff.
He's pretty good.
He got to go to nationals one year with the Calvary school and some of the chess players there, so that was really neat. And we had that season there, and we just kind of, I didn't plug in and serve there. Kristen plugged in and she served in the Sunday school and she served in the coffee bar. She was a barista during college and stuff like that. So, and she loves coffee. So it was kind of like a win-win for her to serve in the coffee bar and then to also get into that children's ministry thing, which was like really interesting to me because it was like, we had Taylor, and Taylor, when I met Kristen, he was 4.5. And so he was growing older, and we didn't get pregnant with Jake until 2005. Yeah, no, 4. We were married for 3-4 years before we decided to have kids. But anyway, I really got plugged into Calvary Chapel, Boise, and they just had a couple brothers there. Kristen and I, we grew. We had been married for 7 years, and then it was the opportunity where we had the chance to move to Salmon. And her and I were, the 7-year thing, people call it a 7-year itch or whatever it is. We were transitioning through stuff. And there was one brother he just kept, hey, Kristen was actually living in Salmon, and he'd come pick me up. We'd go do things. Because I'd go to work, I'd come home, try to finish up the home so that we could put it up for sale. And I remember Rob Hubby, just an outstanding believer in the Lord that, knew me. He didn't know me super well, but through the Bible study group that we were in, we had gone on camping trips, fishing trips with a group of brothers that was there. So it was really cool to see, non-worldly, who think they're masculine men, act in a way, and then to go hang out with real biblical men.
These worldly men.
Yeah, where it's
unbutton
like-
their shirts
yeah.
a little too much and maybe
Yeah,
have a lot
but
of
it-
buttons
Wear
down.
pink.
Yeah. Well, but even then, it was, hey, God's word, this is how we react. And it was neat to have a rigidity in that and a sternness or whatever. Like, we can joke around and have things, but, the word is true and it's real. And there's a difference. Either you're walking the walk or you're not. So I was able to get plugged into by a lot of those guys. But it really just came to a head. It was August 18th of 2002. Calvary Chapel, Boise had a baptism. And I got baptized in the river.
In the Boise River?
In the Boise River, they had this thing. It was at Boise State University on campus. The campus is big enough that there's multiple bridges that would go across, and there's a gigantic park on the other side of the river. And so they had estimated there was about 200 people that got baptized that day. I don't really know because I was really focused on
A lot happening,
what I had going on, And of course, I was like, oh, I want to be in Pastor Bob's line or whatever it was. But it worked out where that didn't really matter. You know, the principle was hey, you know, I'm publicly declaring that I'm walking with Christ right now, and I want to change my life to be who he wants me to be.
Yeah.
And it was really cool. I actually have the pictures up in my office of that day of just, you know, the transition, how it was, you know, I was kind of like what my face was before I got wet. And then, you know, my wife and my family received me as I came up from the beach or the sand or whatever. And there's just a concrete thing where I was walking down there was, you know, we have 2 or 3 guys down there to kind of facilitate what happens. So people, you know, get up and because, you know, the slope of the river or whatever. And I could hear this music coming. And I'm walking up to the pastors there, and I turn and I look, and I almost did I almost was like, what am I doing? Because it was my grade high school party guys and the grade above them, and they're on this float and they're having their good time. And I go down, I get baptized, and as I come up, they're literally playing their music and sailing away from me. And it was just like I didn't necessarily realize the power of that at the time, because now it's like I just like, oh man, that is so amazing, Lord. But it took a couple years for that to hit me of that sailed away from me, that lifestyle, like that, just the worldly jocular attitude of that whole thing. I was like, I'm married, I have this, like God's totally changed me. I can't believe I have what I have and I get to do what I get to do. And then to move forward and press into that, it was, you know, to me, I'm so thankful that happened. And I have that memory of there they go. And there it went.
Yeah, that's cool.
You know, obviously, you know, life goes on and there's still struggles, but it was like, I know, man, God removed that from me and had plans. So it was like on the day I got dunked and said, hey, this is how I want to change that. So so that was super powerful to me, especially now, like I say, as I look back on those things. Yeah,
that's awesome. One of my favorite things to do is baptize people, because my baptism meant an awful lot to me. And yours did as well. And it's always great when you're able to help us baptize, because I just think those are monumental moments in people's lives. And the fact that we get to be just a small part of that is super special to me. Yeah.
I really appreciate it as well, especially, and it doesn't matter, you know, like we've had the young kids that we, you know, get to know and we get to you know, watch them grow, and especially, you know, that, and in some cases we've seen these kiddos make an impact on their parents and their families, where we've had whole families that we've got to baptize. So it's just like you say, it's a little bit of the fruit in you know, participating in the walk with the Lord. It's like, again, it's a tangible thing that you can see the Spirit moving.
Yeah. So you end up moving up to Salmon, and you go straight to Calvary Chapel Salmon from that move once you get up here? Or how's that
when
work?
we get up here, there really wasn't a Calvary Chapel Salmon.
Okay.
My memory is probably a little bit different than Kristen's, but I remember. I remember because I would come up. I was still in Boise. I was in Boise for probably 7 or 8 months when she was up here. Her dad needed her to be working and things like that, so it just made sense where I maintained my survey job in Boise. And then I would just work on the home at night, probably till like 10, 11 o'clock at night, and then I'd go to bed or whatever. But when they were fellowshipping at the City Hall, and I'm not sure who the pastor was then, but then I think they acquired this building, and when I got plugged in, Kenny McMurphy was here, and him and his family, his wife, and he had 2 or 3 boys, or he had some kiddos. It was a
twins,
while ago.
I think, boys and a daughter.
Yeah, and
So that was the pastor.
Yeah,
Kenny.
he was the pastor, and
Was the pastor right before Pastor Ty, or
no, actually there was another pastor.
Okay.
And Kenny he wasn't necessarily an older guy. He was a younger guy with, you know, a Bible-believing wife, and they had kids, and he taught the Word, you know, straight from the Word. He did worship. Yeah. He still sings worship, and I think he has a band now that he travels with or whatever.
Yeah, he's a worship leader at, I think it's called Crossroads or Crosspoint Church in Idaho Falls, which is actually a Nazarene church. And then, he does this thing with his brother where they play like bluesy music. And I want him, I've actually reached out to him in the past to come up here and fill in for me when I've been gone, and it's just never worked out. But one day he'll come back.
Yep. And so Kenny was here, and we just, like I say, fellowshipped under Kenny, and then Kellen Criswell and his wife Jen came here, which is
Katie Palmer.
Yep, Katie Palmer's son.
Yeah.
And he was a very young pastor as well, kind of like what maybe paved the way a little bit for younger pastors like yourself to be Bible teaching, and still like, be able to bring the power of the word, and, everyone else can, get over themselves or whatever their thoughts are on those things. But he was, like I say, a very studious pastor. He brought the word, studied like crazy. Him and his wife did worship. And then that's when Kristen, I think, really stepped up to start playing, in like 07, 08, like in that area. And Kellen wasn't here. Gosh, I don't remember how long he was here. And then that's when Pastor Ty and Lori had come, and they brought the boys, and they moved here. And then, like I said, Kristen really pressed into the music. And when Kellen was here, I was kind of in the Sunday school classroom a little bit. It was Kristen and I together. And then when Kellen tried to get me to be up on the stage, I played bass guitar just a little bit. I could play 2 or 3 songs. So Kristen, It was Kellen and his wife, and then Kristen and I. And we played a couple worship songs or whatever, but I was like, I don't know. I don't like being on the stage. I don't want to be in front of people. How about I go back into the Sunday school class? I want to pour into kids. I like being around kids. So
Yeah.
So then when Ty and Lori got here, they really, pressed into me that way, and really just kind of poured in and encouraged me to, keep interacting with the kids. And I just kept, since then, I know I filled out the paper Joe showed me when I signed up when you had me come on. It was 2008 when I had my fingerprints done. And that, whatever that stuff was for children's ministry stuff. So it was really just trying to hit the ground running from then. And like I say, pour into kids. At the time I had the opportunity.
Like 16 years.
Yeah, it seems like it's been a long time. It's gone by fast, but it's just been a huge blessing, like I said, to see, these kiddos grow up, like Michael McComas was an infant, and now he's an 8th grader, and I've been able to be around him, being around his family.
Yeah.
We're pretty close with his parents and stuff, we used to be super close with a lot of those families, but, to see now where these kids are, some of them are moved off there. Most of them are off in college, and they're getting married, and these things where it's just like, wow, to see them still plugging in and doing, not necessarily getting caught up in the world as some of the other kiddos do. It's been a real blessing to be, like I say, see the fruit of that. It just, I don't know, like things happen in church where a lot of people, they show up on Sunday, but even then they don't know what's happening downstairs in the Sunday school classrooms. They don't, who are the teachers down there? Like what's happening? Like what curriculum are they in? What are they doing? Are they playing games or whatever? So it's just been neat to be, kind of a hidden part of all of that. So
yeah, that's awesome for sure. Yeah. So what? So now you're kind of day-to-day responsible for the school and the dynamics from everything from teachers to kids to parents, and everything else in between, right?
Yeah.
And like, how's that been? And that transition from mechanicking to now stepping into more like full-time ministry, and then specifically in like this school context.
It was a substantial change. I worked in a diesel mechanic shop that had 4 total employees, the boss's wife, and then there was 3 of us mechanics. As his boys were getting older, they would transition in a little bit or whatever. But we worked well together. We found a rhythm. The owner of the company, he was a believer. He believed in God, but he wasn't practicing, wasn't fellowshipping. And in his life, he had seen things where I know he knows God is real, and whatnot. But it was just a mechanic shop, rock and roll, crazy music all the time, and people coming in thinking they just need to swear because they're in the workshop and stuff like that. Where it was like, and I'm not a huge swear guy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it was neat. It was fun. I loved tractors. I loved trucks and everything. I mean, as a kid, I was fascinated. I thought if I wanted to be a truck driver or a farmer, and then my grandpa told me, you don't want to.
Poor career choice.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. Maybe use your brain, go do something else. But I had God had me in a season there, which was amazing because now I get to mechanic on my stuff and all my kids' stuff, and my son's like Taylor comes and asks questions, and he's I get to build that relationship with him to encourage him on doing those things. And so it was a quiet. There was a big box. When we left, it was cool, but lots of times, especially in the winter, there's no windows. You're just in a box. So in the season, it was October or whatever, season change, and I came to the Heritage Center, and there was 10 or 12 teachers between what was going on. They were all female. I was the only...
None of that would make it more difficult or anything.
Besides you and I, we, as far as that male, I would consider at the time leadership role of what was going on. Like, I was really kind of, okay, Lord, what are we doing? Like, what am I? And at first it was a lot of disciplinarian stuff, and then you could figure out, and God had me in other areas where, I got to participate in things where I could see how other schools were operating, and I could really see, oh wow, okay, Lord, I guess I know now why you had me go do that, so I could see a good rigid structure of how, like you said, a very formal school was operated. And so it was like, the beauty part of it was, every day I was like, okay, Lord, I have no idea other than to just step up and serve and try to react to whatever comes.
Yeah.
And so that's really what it was just a lot of step up and react and try not to step on toes of people that were already doing what they were doing. And there was some, transition that way and stuff like that. But, I would go home at the tractor shop, dirty, bleeding, stinky, and very physically exhausted. And from this, it was just, I had to sit down at the end of the day because there was just so much stuff happening. I was like, I had to try to remember, oh man, oh yeah, we prayed over this or this happened. Or, oh gosh, like, oh man, we're dealing with that tomorrow or whatever. Because especially at that time we had, there were some students here that were from very rough homes. And I came in as like, okay, I'm the male, I'm like the disciplinarian, and that drew a line for a lot of kids where it took time to build a relationship with them. But by the end of their tenure here, I felt like I had a great relationship with them and was able to pour into them and to communicate with their families a little bit, and they have an opportunity to share with them. So that was interesting, and just as time has gone, I've just kind of, like you said, you've said in other podcasts where we just let God lead the way. We don't overthink things, and really, I try to just, okay, Lord, here we go. What will you have me do today? What can I do today? And then then janitor duties came up, and then one thing that when Chris and I were plugged into, when we participated in the youth group stuff, we like cooking and we wanted to pour food into kids. So I was like, hey, we're going to cook food one day a week for kids. So there was just things where God, gave me opportunities to do that. So, leaving a tractor shop and just having that very, very routine schedule to, oh man, I have no idea what's going to happen today. I know it's going to be exciting. And then especially as I built relationships with the kids and the other teachers, as we prayed and we served alongside of each other, was, to be able to laugh and joke and pour into the kiddos. But literally, you laugh every single day at something these kiddos do, and enjoy, and stuff like that. Because they literally will make you laugh every day.
They're so funny.
And there's some that, obviously they're emotional. They're going through something where, okay, that's a little bit more like a serious ministering type of thing. But, in that transition, very well, we had lots of really awesome ladies that were pouring in like crazy. Sometimes there was overlap. There was lots of tears for a while, and there was a lot of emotion going on. But God, worked and ministered through those things. And like you said, He's opened and closed doors for people to just kind of come and go as He's wanted them to, and to be where we're at now, where we have a smaller staff, but I feel like we're just able to do what God wants to do and get done, and it changes a little bit every year, but this year is more structured and routine. Like we're chugging along pretty good right now, compared to things that have happened in the past. We've had lots of teachers come and go. We've lost 2 teachers that were special parts of our church family and stuff like that. So in 4 years, I feel like a lot of stuff has really, really happened. But to be able to look back, you can see, God and the Spirit ministering and moving, and as much as you wanted to squash it in some cases, and we've had, I know we've
as much
had
as Hagen wanted to come in and ruin what God is doing.
Yeah, it's like you said,
it's survived somehow.
That's right.
Yeah, and God's done it. I think God's done it. It's not like anyone's trying to support or hold this thing up. I mean, it does have its things. I mean, it's a big thing. Yeah, it's quite a big thing. But to be where we're at now, and like you said, I wake up every day. Okay, Lord, we're gonna go plug in and go serve, and play games, or cook food, or teach class, or like I say, we get to substitute lots of times. I mean, it's just really, really neat to be able to just pour into this younger generation of people that haven't been manipulated or corrupted by at least yet. I mean, it's happening much younger, but it's just like I said, it's a huge part to be a part of ministry, and to really feel like, man, I'm getting paid to do this, and I enjoy it, and like I said, I really, really want to be able to pour into it more. From the youth group stuff, I know I'm the older guy, transition out of a lot of that stuff, but I still have you guys give me opportunities to plug in and participate, and which like I said, I feel blessed by it all.
Yeah, it's definitely a different kind of work, different kind of tired, different kind of stress from other type of jobs. I have a friend who's the pastor at Calvary Chapel Tri-Cities in Washington. He was a contractor before he became a pastor. And he says that by the end of the Sunday, like he's never been more tired. And it's a different kind of tired, but it's just like you're just wiped out. And it's hard for people to get that kind of, I think. And then, but also I know like when I was working for Dally's, sometimes you'd like go into the office and you'd see the guys whose job are just fly desks, sit behind desks, and you'd think, they're just sitting in here. But it's like, man, the stress that they have to try to estimate jobs, and now this machine's broken, and how are you going to move this thing here, and now you can't buy this. Like, there's a trade-off to just digging a hole sometimes. Like, it's way simpler.
Go
ahead,
So I was like cleaning the windows yesterday. I was like, this is just so easy. It's just so nice. And I didn't do the best job in the world, like there's still smudges. But it's just like, and I was really thinking, I could just have my job be like, go and clean the windows around Main Street all day long. And I could just be a window cleaner. It's like, don't even have to think. I can just listen to my podcast. I can just listen to Ryan Reese talk to Hagen Miller. Which is a good podcast. You should go listen to that on YouTube. But it's just like, this is so nice. But then like working with kids, especially, like you said, sub, like last year I had to do some subbing. It's like just an hour with those kids in that classroom. It's exhausting because it's just like, okay guys, let's focus. And it's just like, it's like doing that. I have a lot of respect for you and then all the teachers there who do that all day long with the kids. And it's like, I get to do Bible class, but I feel like Bible class is a little bit more fun because I'm just able to like ask silly questions and take them to get traits and stuff. So I'm able to have more fun with them. But like being a teacher and like, okay, we're doing this with those kids, and there's like always one kid's doing something that he shouldn't or she shouldn't, and it's just so it's definitely a different kind of tired, and just like, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, nice that. So you were at Calvary Chapel Boise when they moved to the real building, though, right?
Yes.
The dealership.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep, and it was a big, beautiful church. They actually needed to grow it more. They had built a school. They had a substantial youth building that was super equipped for the youth and everything. And you had to walk.
Interesting, Jordan?
You had to walk across the parking lots. But Calvary Boise, I mean, it really, like in 2 or 3 years, it just like tripled. There were, by the end of a weekend, there were 3,000 people coming through because they had college age fellowships on Sunday nights. That had a really good following. They had different worship bands. They had Saturday night services. They had 2 on Sundays. They had Sunday night services. There was Wednesday night services. And I think the Spirit was moving because, like I said, there was all these little Bible study groups and stuff where I was anti-touchy-feely the whole, like Pastor Ty used to say, watch out, you're going to get it on you, and you're going to be stuck in the fellowship, which is true. It's, you're going to get it on you, and then what are you going to do? So it was neat to be able to grow in that Calvary Boise, and then, like I say, to come here to Salmon, where it was very, very small, very family oriented, and everybody knew you, engaged you, and like you say, you got to, like say now, like the Aldises and stuff like that. It's like, you get to go hug on them still. So
did they have the thrift store at that time on the corner?
They did. Yep, they did.
So that building is now. The Whosoevers are leasing that building from them because they no longer have the thrift store. So when I was there, that's where we did the podcast.
That's where the podcast was.
And apparently that building caught on fire. So they got to completely remodel it, CC Boise. So it's like a brand new building.
Oh, wow.
And Ryan has this big vision on things to do there. And anyway, I'm going to help him do some things probably in the future out of that building. So it's I don't know much about Calvary Boise. Like I go to that area, that's not the church I'm directly the closest to.
Right.
But now, since I was just there a couple of weeks ago and kind of seeing the whole thing, it's just neat to see. And one of the neat things about Boise is that there's actually so many really good churches there, like a lot.
Yeah.
And I was talking to someone about that the other day who lives there. That valley has a lot of just solid, good churches that go, that are coming in and being planted, but then have been there for a long, long time, which is neat to see. But a lot of cool work came out of Calvary Chapel, Boise. And when I close my eyes and think about Bob Caldwell, I think of a white T-shirt and jeans, because that's whenever I saw him at a conference once or twice, he would just like wear just like a white, like a Hanes T-shirt and jeans, and just kind of talk kind of far out a little bit.
Yes, very Californian. But when he was on the pulpit, he was, he's very stylish. His son, epitomized that stylishness, and
he definitely did.
He has grown into that type of stuff. But he had that style, and like I kind of like that attitude and that kind of demeanor and stuff. And like you said, obviously, human beings are human beings. But I was saved under Pastor Bob, and or whatever, however you want to word it that way. I came to the truth and changed my attitude and my walk. So. But yeah, it grew a lot, and like I say, they had tons of really good pastors there. Kristen and I had marriage counseling through Calvary Boise with Pastor Randy Nurmi, and then we had some other counselors and stuff. Where he married us actually, but we did some counseling through some other folks and stuff like that. Where, like you said, they just had a really good outreach for the the church body, and like I said, some of those folks had spread out and moved, and people are real and do things and fall away, but there's still a lot of people that are just still walking the walk and living the word. Yeah.
Bob's son, I think he still has a show on HGTV on flipping houses. So he went from being in this band called Esterlin, and they came up here once into the thing, this pastor's son, to now having his own show on HGTV about real estate and flipping houses. So quite a family. And actually, you would actually really like him in this sense. They adopt like a bunch of kids, like a bunch, and all of them have special needs.
Oh, wow.
And I know that's just, a heart of your family.
For sure.
But very, very cool family, and just kind of interesting ways how God's opened the door there. And it sucks because Bob retired kind of and passed the church on to Tucker. And then a year or so after that, information came out that he was having an affair as his time as the pastor for a season at least. And that sucks, and it's a bummer, definitely. But that doesn't take away from the work that God did through him during those times.
Yep.
Right.
And that's just neat to be reminded of as well. Yeah.
It's important. Yep.
So
I agree.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Jordan, any closing thoughts, questions for Tim?
Yeah. I learned a lot from you, Tim. You're a great guy. Yeah, definitely feel free to hang out whenever youth group. You're not that old.
Yeah. Awesome.
So, yeah.
Yes.
I think that's it. Anything else you want to say before we
like
send
I said,
off?
I'm just blessed to serve alongside you guys and Lee and the rest of our church family. And like I said, it's just neat to have you guys have me on. And, like I say, to be working alongside you guys and looking forward to the things that we're going to be doing with the youth and the coming up.
Yeah.
And I'm really excited about the mission trip in 2025. I really want to participate and be a part of that and see what
that will be fun.
God has in that. But yeah, like I said, it's just it's a blessing to wake up and see what God's agenda is.
So if you're a high schooler and you go to our church, sign up to go to Mexico with us.
Yeah, spring
we
break.
have very limited spots, very limited space, but spring break will be going.
Yes.
So yeah.
And right now we only have 3 kids signed up. Plus one kid's mom.
But I've heard from other kids that they want to go. So.
Well, that's interesting because on the sign-up sheet, there's only 3. Okay, so tell them if they want to go, they should sign up.
I know of one that we'll push to go.
Hey, there you go. Good. Okay, well, hey, hope you have a good day. See you later, everyone.
Bye.